So hello students, we have finished the first two chapters in the biology, that is the first one living world and the second chapter, that is biological classification. So that after completion of that, now we are in the third chapter, that is called as plant kingdom. Okay, so in the second chapter in biological classification, we came through all the five kingdoms, but we have studied kingdom Monera, Protista and fungi in detail, isn't it? But we haven't studied the plant kingdom as well as the animal kingdom in detail in that chapter. So that we have a particular chapter to study the plant kingdom. Okay, as well as after completion of this, there is another chapter called as animal kingdom. So in those two separate chapters, we are going to study those two kingdoms separately. So that in the plant kingdom, so what is our first thing? The synopsis. Okay, whenever we are going to study any new chapter, we should go through the synopsis. That means the summary of the chapter. So the subheadings, mainly it includes the algae. Okay, second one bryophytes, next to that is pteridophytes, again next to that is gymnosperm, angiosperm, at the last we are going to study some plant life cycles. Okay, so as you already know, a kingdom is the highest category. Okay, so that the kingdom plant is the highest category, and we are using the word division in case of a plant kingdom, isn't it? The plant kingdom is divided into certain number of divisions. So these five are those divisions. Okay, from algae to angiosperm, total five are there. These five are the divisions in case of kingdom Plantae, while in case of Animalia we use the word phylum. Okay, so that we have to study five divisions in this particular chapter. So before going to start that, we should go through some classification systems. Okay, so the first one is artificial classification system. It is also called as linear system of classification. Second one, natural classification system. It is also called as Bentham and Hooker system of classification. The third one is phylogenetic classification system. So about these three we are going to study in detail. So the first one, artificial classification system, which was given by Carolus Linnaeus during 70th century. That's why this system of classification is also called as Linnaeus system of classification. But before that, Aristotle was also made some classification, but which was not acceptable. Okay, so this is the first scientific approach, we can say that. So here in this artificial system, it is the earliest system of classification. It is the first scientific approach to classify the organisms. They were based on vegetative characters or superficial morphological characters such as habit, color, number and shape of leaves. So Carolus Linnaeus, he has considered this type of characters to classify the organisms. Linnaeus artificial system of classification was based on the androecium structure. Okay, so this artificial system, what it is considering, mainly the morphological characters. Okay, like this, the habit, okay, the place where that particular organism is growing, color of the plant, number and shape of the leaves. These are all morphological characters andre ಏನು external characters anta. Okay, the characters which we can see through our naked eyes is called as morphological character. Like that, the Linnaeus is considered the androecium structure of the flower. So here androecium, it refers to the male part of the flower. Okay, androecium is the male part of the flower which is producing the pollen grains. Okay, so he considered only the structure of androecium to classify the plants. That's why this artificial system of classification is having certain drawbacks, or we can say limitations. Which are those? So ಯಾವ್ದು drawback ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ drawbacks ಅಂದ್ರೆ exceptions ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. Okay, first one, they separated the closely related species since they were based on a few characteristics. So the first drawback of this artificial system of classification is that it separated the closely related species. If two species are belong to the same family, but due to a difference in morphological character, it has been separated. Okay, so that is the first drawback. Like that, the second drawback of this one is equal weightage to vegetative and sexual characteristics. So what Linnaeus has done, he has given equal weightage to both vegetative as well as the sexual characteristics, which is not acceptable, isn't it? Vegetative character means the characters of the plant other than the reproductive structure. For example, if you consider any angiosperm or any flowering plant, the flower is considered as the reproductive part of the plant. Okay, flower itself is the reproductive part of the plant. So that apart from the flower, all other parts of the plant is considered as a vegetative character. Okay, like that, sexual character means the flower characters, the structure of androecium as well as the structure of gynoecium. Androecium andre male part of the flower, gynoecium andre female part of the flower. But it has been given equal weightage. Why? Because this is not acceptable. The giving of equal weightage to both vegetative and sexual characters is not acceptable, because this is not acceptable since the vegetative characters are more easily affected by the environment, isn't it? Vegetative character, that means the growth of root, stem, leaf, twig and all, isn't it? They can be easily affected by the environment. If we do not provide a sufficient nutrient to the plants, what will happen? It can't grow richly, isn't it? That's why it can be easily affected. But sexual character, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಗೆ ಏನಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಬಟ್ ವೆಜಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಡು ನಾಟ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ sufficient nutrient or water, what will happen? It is easily affected. That's why we cannot give equal weightage to both vegetative as well as the sexual characters. So these two are the drawbacks in case of artificial system of classification. So like that, the next one, natural classification system. Okay, so this was given by Bentham and Hooker. That's why natural system of classification is also called as Bentham and Hooker system of classification. Okay, so this natural system based on natural affinities among organisms. So affinity means a tendency. Okay, affinity andre tendency anta artha. This natural system considers external features and internal features. Which are those internal features? Ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology and phytochemistry. Okay, but in artificial system of classification, it was considered only the morphological characters, that means only the external feature. But this is somewhat modified one, isn't it? Along with external feature, it has also considered the internal features also. So example, classification for flowering plants given by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. Okay, so these two scientists, they tried to classify the plant kingdom by considering both external features as well as the internal features of the plant. Understood? That's why natural system of classification is also called as Bentham and Hooker system of classification. After that, in today's scenario, we are following the phylogenetic classification system. Okay, phylogenetic classification. So at present, phylogenetic classification system is the accepted system of classification. Nenpirbeku idu. Okay, we are not following Linnaeus classification system, or we are not following the Joseph and Hooker system of classification. We are following phylogenetic classification system. Example for this phylogenetic system of classification, the earlier chapter we have studied, R.H. Whittaker classified the organisms into 5 kingdoms. R.H. Whittaker system of classification is an example for phylogenetic classification. Okay, this phylogenetic classification is based on evolutionary relationships among organisms. The main basis for the phylogenetic system of classification is what? The evolutionary relationship. Evolution ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೇನೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಎವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್, ವಾಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್? ಗ್ರಾಜುವಲ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಓವರ್ ಸೆವೆರಲ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ತುಂಬಾ ವರ್ಷದವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಗ್ರಾಜುವಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ, ದಿಸ್ ಫೈಲೋಜೆನೆಟಿಕ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ಸ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ organisms belonging to the same taxa have a common ancestor. This is the basis. Okay, assumes anta helidare alli. Assumptions andre ಏನು ಅರ್ಥ? ಗೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. Okay, what it means? organisms belonging to the same taxa. Taxa means what? In the living world chapter only we know the meaning of taxa. Particular organisms occupying a particular category, we call it as a taxa alva. Species to kingdom, species, genus, family, class, adella taxa anta kariteve. So ಒಂದೇ taxaದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ organisms, they have a common ancestor. Okay, if any organisms, a group of organisms are present in a certain family, okay, two different organisms are present in a family, that means those two organisms are having a common ancestor. That means those two organisms ultimately belongs to a same class. Understood? So that what our conclusion here today, we are following the phylogenetic system of classification, and it is the most accepted one, and the example for this phylogenetic system of classification is R.H. Whittaker's system of classification. Understood? Next one, to study all this taxonomy, we need always, we cannot depend on only certain limited resources, isn't it? Along with that, we need some external aids to study the taxonomy. Which are those? Other sources to resolve the problems in case of classification. Ultrastructure ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ, ಅದನ್ನಷ್ಟೇ ನೋಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅದರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಕೂಡ ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಅದು ಯಾವ್ದು ಅದರ್ ಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನೋಡೋದಿಲ್ಲಿ. First one is the numerical taxonomy. Numerical. So what we are going to do here? It is based on all observable characteristics. Okay, numerical taxonomy, it's a type of taxonomy which depends on completely on observable characters. Observable means what? External characters. That means the morphology of particular organism. Okay. It is easily carried out using computers, so that to do the numerical taxonomy we must and should require the use of computers. Here number and codes are assigned to all the characters and the data are processed. Okay, so each organism is possessing a lot of characters, so that each character is given with a certain number or certain codes. Then all that data will be input into the computer system. So then using certain softwares the data will be run, so that it will give us the output. Okay, thus hundreds of characters can be considered giving equal importance, so that we can give equal importance for different characters, so that the computer will run itself and it will provide the output, so that we can do the classification of the organisms. Second source is cytotaxonomy. Cytology, cell anta artha. Okay, cytology andre study of cell. Cytotaxonomy, this is based on cytological information like chromosome number, structure, behavior. Okay, chromosome number, chromosome structure, as well as chromosome behavior. So by studying the cytology of particular cells, we can get information like the chromosome number. Okay, by studying the cytology we can easily get the number of chromosomes present in a particular cell. One cell ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು chromosome ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. Like that we can study chromosome structure, we can study chromosome behavior also, so that this information is also helping for classification. That type of taxonomy we call it as cytotaxonomy. Next one is chemotaxonomy. So here in chemotaxonomy it uses chemical constituents of plants to resolve confusions and are used by taxonomists these days. Chemotaxonomy, chemicals. Okay, by analyzing the chemicals produced by a particular plant we can do taxonomy, we can classify. Okay, so nowadays the taxonomists are using the chemotaxonomy. They are going to study the chemical constituents of a particular plant and they are studying the taxonomy. So that these three, numerical taxonomy, cytotaxonomy, chemotaxonomy, these three we can have as a outer sources to resolve the problems in case of classification. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಆಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ ನಾನು, only simply external features or simply considering internal features we can't do the taxonomy. We also require the other external support or other external aids in order to classify the plants. Okay, so that in this class we will finish up to the chemotaxonomy. Okay, ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನೆನಪಿಡಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದೇನು ಹಾಗಾದರೆ 3 different types of classification. That much is enough. Okay, the first one artificial system of classification. ಯಾರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಅದನ್ನು? Carolus Linnaeus. And what was the basis for artificial classification system? It was androecium structure. Okay, second one natural system of classification. ಯಾರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಅದನ್ನ? Natural system of classification ಅನ್ನ ಜೋಸೆಫ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹುಕ್ಕರ್. ಓಕೆ, ಬೆಂಥಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹುಕ್ಕರ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಬೆಂಥಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹುಕ್ಕರ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಮೂರನೇದು ಯಾವುದು ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ? ಫೈಲೋಜೆನೆಟಿಕ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್. ಓಕೆ, ದ ಟುಡೇಸ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟೆಡ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ is called as phylogenetic system of classification. One example for that, R.H. Whittaker system of classification. Along with that we can have Hutchinson system of classification. Okay, tumba variety tumba ide phylogenetic system. Okay, and what is the basis for phylogenetic system of classification is evolutionary relationship among the organisms. Understood? So this much of topic is enough for today, and we will see the remaining things in next class. Okay.